I'm a 32-year-old woman and I work as a full-time nanny for a very well-known family in Connecticut. I've been with them for nearly 6 years now. The job isn't easy, long hours, high expectations, lots of travel, but it's a perfect fit for me. I have a degree in early childhood education, I'm certified in child psychology, and I'm the type who color codes snack drawers. The parents are busy, the kids are high energy, but I'm good at keeping chaos from turning into crisis. I like structure. I like knowing I'm helping raise good, kind people. I love the work. I just never wanted any kids of my own. My older brother Dean, who's 35, thinks my entire life is a joke. He works in finance, big firm, fancy suit, house in the suburbs, 2 kids. The kind of guy who talks about interest rates at Thanksgiving and expects people to be impressed. Growing up, Dean was always the one getting awards, praise, extra attention. I wasn't jealous. I was just tired of how obvious it was that our parents thought I was the one figuring things out. They'd pat my head at family dinners while Dean explained the stock market like he invented it. Over the years, Dean made it his mission to treat my career like a punchline. At every gathering, every family text thread, every dinner, he found a way to bring it up. How's babysitting? Still playing house for a living? You gonna start charging Claire hourly when she leaves you with her kids? It got meaner over time. Once he joked I was just auditioning for a real family. Another time he said my job was just a placeholder until I got a man. Our parents never said anything. Sometimes they laughed. Most of the time they just smiled and changed the subject. Last Christmas was the worst. Everyone was over at my parents' house. The kids were running around. The adults were all 1 glass of wine, 2 deep. Dean held up a serving apron from the kitchen and said, "Jules, want this for your uniform? Might as well look the part." People laughed. Not Claire though. She just looked down at her plate. That night, I finally said something. I told him he had no idea what my life looked like, that I live in a rent-free Manhattan apartment, travel internationally, and probably make more than he does. That while he was playing office, I was helping kids learn how to talk, walk, and regulate emotions. That I actually like my job. That not wanting to have kids doesn't mean I'm incomplete. He didn't take it well. Scoffed. Said my world was make-believe. That I was lucky I didn't have real responsibilities. He got louder as he drank more. Claire barely said a word the whole ride back. A week later, she texted me, totally out of the blue. Just asked if I had time to talk, said it was serious. We met at a park halfway between our places. She had her hood up, kept checking around like she didn't want to be seen. It was cold and she looked like she hadn't slept. She said she was planning to leave Dean, that she hadn't told anyone yet, not even her parents, that she didn't know where to start or what to do with the kids, but she couldn't keep living like that. I asked if something happened. She said a lot of things had happened, but what pushed her over the edge was something she recently found, something Dean had kept hidden for years. 7 years ago, when their oldest was still a baby, Dean had gone on a work trip. Claire had stayed home. During that trip, I had gotten a phone call from a mutual friend, someone who worked as a dispatcher. She asked if Dean was okay. I said I didn't know what she was talking about. That's when she told me he'd been arrested the night before for DUI. He had a woman in the car who wasn't Claire. She said he was released a few hours later and that someone had helped smooth it over. I never told anyone. I figured it was a mistake or a one-off. I didn't want to blow up their life over something that might have already been resolved. Claire said she found the court paperwork in a folder tucked behind a filing cabinet. Dean had told her that weekend he was at a finance conference in Boston. The woman's name wasn't anyone Claire recognized. The dates matched. The lie had been going on for 7 years. She said he never told her, never hinted at it, never came clean. And once she found out, everything else started making sense. The drinking, the sudden mood swings, the way he talked to the kids like they were burdens, the way he dismissed her whenever she brought up how unhappy she felt. She didn't come to me just to vent. She wanted help, real help. She didn't have family nearby. Her parents lived 2 states away, and she didn't want to uproot the kids. She asked if I'd be willing to be there when she left, not just emotionally, but physically. To watch the kids for a few days, maybe longer. She was crying when she asked. I didn't hesitate. I said yes. Claire found a divorce attorney the next day, quietly. No sudden moves, no confrontations. She met with the lawyer during lunch breaks and on mornings when Dean left early for work. She started collecting things: bank statements, utility records, photos of damage to the walls where Dean had punched holes, copies of emails where he blamed her for things like the kids getting colds or the house looking messy. Even though she cleaned it daily, she kept everything digital, scanned and stored in a private folder, sent backups to her lawyer. She didn't want to risk him finding a single paper trail in the house. She asked if I could take care of the kids once she left. Just for a few days, maybe a week. I told her yes. We didn't need to talk through it. I've always loved them. They were already used to me. I've babysat for them dozens of times. School pickups, overnights, sick days. To them, I've always been Auntie Jules, the one who brings storybooks and pre-sliced fruit and plays classical music during coloring time. Dean, meanwhile, kept playing the same old game. Family group chat, passive-aggressive one-liners. He made a joke about how I should be teaching parenting classes since I'd been watching other people's kids for a decade. When no one laughed, he followed it up with still waiting for Jules to join the real world. A few days later, we were all at a birthday party for our niece, one of our cousin's kids. Backyard, bounce house, folding chairs. Dean pulled me aside near the snack table and said something about how I'd probably end up retiring alone in a rocking chair surrounded by other people's children. Claire stood nearby, heard all of it, and didn't even react, just looked at him, turned, and walked back to the kids. That night, she called me from the bathroom. She'd locked herself in because Dean had come home drunk again. Not falling over drunk, just loud, unpredictable, slamming doors and knocking over a chair. The youngest had spilled water on the kitchen floor and Dean had screamed so loud the neighbor upstairs called to check in. That was the line for Claire. She said it out loud. She was done. The next morning, she packed a bag, just enough for a weekend trip. Clothes, toothbrushes, a few toys. She told the kids they were going to visit Aunt Jules for a couple days. No stress, no drama. They were excited. She showed up at my apartment around noon. I had already picked up snacks and folded out the pull-out couch in my guest room. I kept everything calm. Dean didn't notice anything was wrong until about 7 that night. He walked into an empty house and went straight to his phone. First he called Claire, then me. Neither of us picked up. Then he started texting. Accused me of poisoning her mind, said I was trying to steal his family, said I was jealous, claimed what we were doing was illegal. Claire sent back one thing, a scanned PDF of the court record from 7 years ago. His name, the arrest date, the charge, and the name of the woman who wasn't her. The messages stopped after that. Not a single word. Just radio silence. Claire's lawyer started the separation filing that week. She listed emotional instability, substance concerns, and the past criminal record. Not just the DUI, but the fact that he'd hidden it for years. The lawyer said that part was key. The lie mattered almost more than the charge itself. We got the kids officially registered under my care in case of emergency. Their pediatrician, school, daycare, all got the same paperwork. Claire handled the legal end while I handled the day-to-day. The kids adjusted fast, faster than I expected. They were quieter at first, like they weren't sure if something bad was going to happen. But by day 3, they were eating full meals, sleeping through the night, and playing without needing constant reassurance. I set up a schedule: breakfast at 7:30, school runs, nap time for the youngest, structured play in the afternoon, dinner by 6. Claire helped where she could, but she was still working full-time and meeting with the lawyer every other day. I took over the routine. It worked. They needed calm, predictable, safe. Claire told me one night, not in a breakdown way, just like she'd finally started letting herself say it out loud, that Dean had drained her for years, that everything with him had to be a fight. If the kids cried, it was her fault. If they didn't finish their food, she was too soft. If the bills were late, she was bad with money, even though Dean handled all the banking. It was like walking on broken glass, trying not to bleed. She said the lawyer felt confident that the pattern mattered. The secret DUI, the verbal abuse, the public outbursts, it all added up. And because the kids were now doing better, calm, fed, on a stable routine, that contrast would matter too. The best part? They stopped asking when they were going home. After a week, they stopped asking entirely. About 2 weeks after Claire brought the kids to my place, my parents reached out. They wanted to do a family dinner, just the adults. No birthday, no holiday, just dinner. That never happens unless something's up. I almost said no, but Claire said it was better to go. Not for them, for clarity. No more whispers or silence, just everything out in the open. We showed up together. Claire had her hair pulled back, plain sweater, no makeup. She looked like she wanted zero attention on her. Dean was already there. He was pacing near the living room when we walked in, holding a glass of something dark. As soon as we sat down, he launched into it. He told our parents Claire was unstable, that she'd been manipulated by me, that I was inserting myself into their marriage because I didn't have one of my own. He called it a breakdown, said she was spiraling, and that I'd encouraged it. Claimed I'd been feeding her lies and playing the hero, all while Claire sat still, barely blinking. Then she spoke. She laid out everything. The DUI, the woman in the car, the years of lying, the drinking, the yelling. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't cry. She just listed the facts, where she found the paperwork, the dates that matched, the version he gave her at the time, the way he always made her feel like she was the one losing grip. I backed her up. I told them what I'd seen years ago, how I got a call from someone in dispatch, how I saw the report myself but didn't say anything. I thought it was a one-time mistake. I thought maybe he had already handled it and didn't want to blow up their life over something that might have been already fixed. I told them I was wrong to stay quiet. My dad looked stunned. He kept glancing at Dean like he didn't know who he was looking at. Then he asked one question. If the story was true, why wasn't it ever mentioned before? Claire said she only found the evidence recently. My dad got quiet after that. Turns out he had co-signed a personal loan for Dean about 3 years ago. A pretty big one. Dean had told him it was for a home renovation project. But if Dean had any record tied to that old DUI, especially something that had been covered up, that loan could get messy, especially if there was insurance or business involvement attached. Dean kept saying we were blowing everything out of proportion, that it happened years ago and wasn't relevant anymore. He tried to spin it like we were dragging up old mistakes just to punish him. My mom asked Claire why she stayed all this time, if things were really that bad. Claire said it straight, for the kids. She didn't look ashamed saying it. She just looked tired. Halfway through the meal, Dean stood up and muttered something about how I'd always wanted to be the favorite. He said it like it was some lifelong secret, something I'd been chasing. My dad didn't let it slide this time. He looked at Dean and said, "Jules didn't want to be the favorite. She just stepped up where you didn't." That shut Dean up completely. He left the house without saying another word. After he was gone, my mom asked Claire what she needed. Not in a showy way, just calm, direct. Claire told her about the custody process and the temporary orders the lawyer was preparing. My mom said to keep her updated. That was it. No drama, no begging Dean to come back. Just next steps. After that, Dean just stopped being part of things. He didn't block anyone. He didn't call. He just stopped showing up. No messages. No updates. My parents didn't bring him up again. It was like he faded into the background. Claire moved fast. She got the kids scheduled with a new pediatrician and a school counselor. Both listed her and me as points of contact. We updated the school forms. I signed some backup care paperwork. She filed paperwork with her lawyer to establish consistent care, noting where the kids had been living for the past few weeks and how their routine had improved. The kids adjusted without a fight. No meltdowns, no confusion. They ate, slept, and played like it had always been this way. They didn't talk about their dad. They didn't ask when they were going back. It was like their whole world had settled. Claire's attorney said the case was strong. The history of the DUI wasn't just about the charge. It was about the cover-up, the secrecy, and the lack of remorse. Add to that the recent behavior, the drinking, the yelling, and the emotional damage, and the court would likely side with Claire for full custody. The file was ready. Statements were prepped, documents printed and signed. Custody filing was officially set to be submitted the next morning. About a week after the family dinner, a printed letter showed up at my parents' house from Dean. 3 full pages. Typed, signed, and mailed. He claimed Claire was unstable, accused me of inserting myself to feel important, and said the kids were being used as weapons. He even included screenshots of texts where Claire vented months ago, out of context, cut up to paint her as emotional and erratic. My dad called him once, told him not to contact them again until he was ready to be honest. No twisting the story, no spinning facts, no playing the victim. That was the end of that. Dean didn't back off though. He started reaching out to mutual friends, told them Claire was cutting him out, that I had some weird obsession with her family, and that the whole thing was a smear campaign. A few people bought it, some didn't say anything at all. One of them, a friend named Sarah, who knew both of them since college, reached out directly to Claire, said she wanted to understand both sides. Claire didn't argue, she just sent her a folder. The scanned DUI file, the court record, photos of the cabinet Dean broke after yelling at the kids, and copies of the school notes showing how much calmer the children had become since leaving his home. Sarah didn't reply after that. A few days later, she told me she'd cut contact with Dean completely, said he made her uncomfortable. Claire's lawyer moved fast. With everything lined up, they filed the temporary custody motion. The packet included police documents, therapist letters, pediatrician notes, and school reports. Everything showed the same thing. The kids were doing better now than they were when living with Dean. And that contrast was key. Dean got served at work. In the lobby of his office, middle of the day, right in front of reception. People saw, word got around, not from gossip, but because it happened in public. The legal envelope with his name in bold was hard to miss. No one said anything to him directly, but he noticed the shift. Fewer people stopped by his desk. Meetings got moved without him. He didn't message Claire directly. Instead, he reached out to one of our cousins, asking them to talk to me. He said he just wanted to talk to someone reasonable, and that I should convince Claire to stop the lies. I didn't reply at first. He followed up, so I sent one line back, that I wasn't covering for him anymore, and he needed to deal with the consequences himself. Meanwhile, Claire booked therapy sessions for both kids. Once a week, the counselor said they were adjusting well. No signs of long-term trauma, just some anxiety and trouble with transitions. Normal for kids their age. The sessions continued, and progress was steady. A package arrived at my apartment a few days later. No return address, but it was clearly from Dean. Inside were a few toys and a letter addressed to the kids. Claire didn't open it. Her lawyer told her to hold on to it and not introduce anything that could confuse or destabilize the progress we'd made. She put it in a file box and didn't bring it up again. I had a second lock installed on my apartment door, just in case. The building manager flagged Dean's name and face for the doorman. He was no longer allowed up under any circumstance, even if he said it was urgent or pretended to be invited. The kids didn't know about any of it. They just kept adjusting. They had their school days, afternoon playtime, dinner at 6. The little one started drawing picture schedules. The older one helped pack lunches. They asked questions about why they weren't going home, but they didn't seem upset. They were just, okay. My boss noticed something was going on but didn't press. She offered me more flexibility and brought in a backup nanny to cover my other shifts part-time. Said I could use the office's private pediatrician if needed. Didn't ask for details, just helped. Then things went quiet. No letters, no calls, no surprise visits. Dean just stopped. It felt off, like silence before a storm. Claire's lawyer said the same. They kept prepping for court, putting together a timeline of behavior. Not just the DUI, but the pattern. The secrecy, the volatility, the control, the emotional neglect. The story wasn't about a single mistake anymore. It was about what came after, and who had to clean it up. The custody hearing took place on a Wednesday morning. Claire wore a dark blazer and brought a small binder of documents. Her lawyer walked in right beside her, calm and prepared. Dean showed up 10 minutes late, shirt wrinkled, tie half done, eyes red like he hadn't slept. His new lawyer looked like he'd been handed the case a day earlier. Papers falling out of a folder, no laptop, just a notebook and a ballpoint pen. The judge opened with questions about the children's current state. Claire's team submitted a packet, therapist notes, pediatrician updates, school progress reports, all signed, all consistent. The reports showed improvement in sleep, behavior, focus, and social interaction. Claire answered questions clearly, stuck to facts. Dean's lawyer tried to stop the DUI record from being admitted. Argued it was too old and unrelated. The judge looked over the file and overruled the objection. Said the real issue wasn't the charge, it was the cover-up, the dishonesty, and how that behavior could affect parenting judgment. Dean said the woman in the car was a coworker, claimed there was no relationship, and that she just needed a ride. When asked for her last name, he couldn't remember it. Said she'd transferred offices years ago. Claire's lawyer then submitted a list of texts from around the time of the arrest. Texts Dean had deleted, but that Claire recovered from a backup app. The tone didn't match his story. The judge didn't comment but made a note. Dean tried to shift the topic, pointed at me, said I was too involved, claimed I was trying to replace him, said I was competing for his kid's love. Claire's attorney requested I be allowed to testify, and the judge approved it. I was called up. I explained the kids' daily routine, school schedule, meals, sleep patterns, therapy updates. I mentioned their calm behavior since leaving Dean's home. I gave timelines, no opinions, just structure, facts, examples. The judge asked about trauma signs. Claire provided a report from the kids' counselor. It confirmed emotional distress during their time at home with Dean and consistent improvement after the separation. Dean's lawyer adjusted strategy. He stopped asking for full custody, shifted to joint custody with supervised visits, asked for a plan that allowed Dean to rebuild his relationship with the kids. Claire's attorney pushed back hard, brought up Dean's ongoing lack of accountability, the sudden lawyer switch, the DUI secrecy, the yelling incidents, the night he scared the kids over spilled water. The judge reviewed everything, then gave a ruling. Claire would have temporary full custody. Dean would receive supervised visits only, at a neutral court-approved center. The visits would be monitored by professionals and would depend on him completing both parenting classes and counseling sessions. Compliance would be reviewed in 90 days. Dean didn't respond. He stood up, gathered his jacket, and left the courtroom without looking at anyone. Outside, Claire stood still for a second, then just nodded and walked toward the elevator. The kids were with a sitter. We went straight to pick them up and took them out for ice cream. That evening, my father sent me a text. I saw the outcome. You did right by those kids. That was all he said. He hasn't brought up Dean since. Later that night, Claire emailed the school with the updated custody order. She added my name to the emergency contact list and marked the box for authorized pickup. It wasn't a placeholder anymore. It was official. A few days after the custody hearing, Claire got a letter from Dean's company. Official letterhead. Internal ethics review had been triggered. Dean's position involved international finance accounts and client travel. The concealed DUI, along with the public court filings and recent supervised visit order, was flagged as a potential liability. He was suspended from work pending investigation. His access to internal systems was revoked the same day. One of his major projects, a long-term portfolio involving a European investment group, was reassigned without warning. Claire heard about it from a mutual friend who worked in compliance at the same firm. That same evening, Dean showed up at my apartment. No call, no message. He just stood outside the building trying to get the doorman to let him in. The doorman refused. Dean got louder. He stood on the sidewalk, yelling up toward the windows, accused me of ruining his life, said I turned Claire against him, that I stole his family, that I'd manipulated the entire situation. Claire was in the living room with the kids. As soon as Dean's voice echoed off the building, she grabbed them and moved to the back room. I locked the hallway door and called the building manager. Within minutes, 2 security staff came downstairs and escorted Dean off the property. The entire incident was caught on camera. Security saved the footage, time-stamped and logged, and included it in the incident report. Claire's lawyer filed for a restraining order, first thing the next morning. The court reviewed the footage and incident file. Dean claimed he just wanted to talk and didn't threaten anyone, but the court wasn't interested in excuses. He violated the boundary established by the supervised visit order and caused a scene in front of children. A 6-month restraining order was granted. Dean was officially banned from approaching my building, the kids' school, Claire's workplace, or any location where unsupervised contact could happen. Any violation would trigger an immediate response. We kept the kids' routine steady. School drop-offs, meals, homework, bedtime. Claire and I signed them up for a community music program that started the following week. It was low-cost, beginner level, and designed for kids who needed a confidence boost. Both chose violin. After their first class, the younger one drew a picture of Claire, me, the violin teacher, and a plate of spaghetti. She labeled each person and added the words "Our House" at the top. I taped it to the fridge next to their school calendar. Dean didn't make another appearance, but the impact reached further. His company officially placed him on leave. His profile was pulled from their website. A team-wide meeting was held the following Monday, where leadership explained that his absence was pending HR matters. Multiple coworkers unfollowed him on social media. One unfriended Claire and then added her back a week later. No message, just silence. We didn't talk about Dean in front of the kids. When they asked questions, Claire kept it simple. Dad was getting help. We'd let them know when they'd see him again. No drama, just answers that made sense to small minds. One night after dinner, Claire sat me down. No build-up. She just said what had been coming for a while, that even when things settled legally, she didn't want the arrangement to end. She wanted the kids to stay part-time with me. For weekends, for routines, for the familiar rhythm we had built. She called it their safe place. There wasn't a big moment after that. No emotional pause, just a shared understanding. We kept cleaning up after dinner and packed lunches for the next day. And for the first time, none of it felt temporary. The drawings on the fridge, the violin practices, the afternoon walks to the bakery on Thursdays. This wasn't a stopgap anymore. This was just life, not built in spite of everything that happened, but because of it. 3 months passed with no contact from Dean. The restraining order stayed in place. No calls, no letters, no surprise visits. His name never came up at school, at pickups, or during the kids' therapy check-ins. His old company finished their internal investigation and sent out a formal notice. Dean was officially terminated for dishonesty and disclosure, and for being a reputational risk. His company email was deactivated. His LinkedIn went blank a week later. Claire finalized the divorce paperwork through her lawyer. Dean signed everything through his own without pushing back. No fight for custody, no negotiation, just signatures and silence. The final court date was quick. The judge signed off on sole custody for Claire and acknowledged the consistent, stable care the children had received over the past few months. Claire listed me on the documents as their designated secondary caregiver and emergency contact. I was added to all the official forms: school, pediatrician, therapy office, after-school club. It wasn't temporary. I had full permission to make decisions when needed. Medical, academic, transportation, everything. Claire found a new apartment not far from mine, still close to the kids' school. The move was quiet, just a weekend van rental and a few trips back and forth. No big announcement, just a new start. The kids now split their time between us, afternoons, alternating weekends, school events. The handoffs are smooth. No tension, just normal coordination. They're doing well, better than before. The violin class is stuck. Both kids look forward to them. They sleep through the night, eat without prompting, and have started helping with chores on their own. Their teachers report progress in focus and communication. The counselor has scaled sessions back to once a month. Claire and I divide responsibilities easily. She handles most of the school logistics. I cover aftercare and meal planning. We both show up to parent-teacher meetings and coordinate calendars without any issues. There's no tug of war, just teamwork. My parents came to the kids' spring concert. It was held in the school's auditorium. Folding chairs, juice boxes, homemade programs. Dean's name wasn't on anything, and nobody asked why. There was no conversation about him. He just wasn't there, and that was enough. My dad, now semi-retired, volunteers once a week in the school library. He reads with the younger grades and drops off books for the classrooms. The kids love seeing him there. We don't talk about Dean. At work, I got promoted. I now oversee training and scheduling for new hires. My employers gave me a flexible schedule, knowing how much time I spend with the kids. No questions asked. One day at school pickup, a staff member called me mom by mistake, then corrected herself quickly. I didn't say anything. The kids just smiled. Claire eventually introduced someone new to the kids. Adam, a pediatric nurse. He's quiet, kind, and patient. She introduced him gradually. The kids warmed up to him fast. A relative mentioned Dean moved out of state, took a junior position somewhere. Nobody knows if his new partner knows about the kids. Nobody asks. Last night, the younger one fell asleep on my couch with a drawing in her hand. 4 stick figures, labeled me, mommy, Aunt Jules, and home. I put it on the fridge next to their latest recital flyer. Not for show, just because it belongs there. This is life now. Not perfect, not planned, but real, and it fits.